She was messaging me to where I work for respirators. He's like, "Dad, can you bring me home some respirators?" I said, "Of course," So obviously they weren't supplying them to her. I had to sneak them out of my shop to bring them to her. This stupid little mask. You figure this is a multi-million-dollar company, I would think anyway. They're not giving their workers masks. She's begging me to steal masks from my shop.
Welcome to the show tonight. Mike Crawford, we got some special guests. A lot of happening related to the story that we reported 8 days ago about the death of Lorna McMurray. Quite a few stories. We're going to try to share some of those on the screen tonight so people could see, but, Commonwealth Magazine, Leafly, High Times, bunch of other publications have just put out stories about Lorna McMurray. We're going to be talking about that tonight. Some new information has come out related to some of those stories. Some things we've unearthed, some things other reporters have unearthed. We're really happy that people are interested in this story. We've been covering workers and the rights of workers and what's going on with workers in Massachusetts for quite some time now. And it's really unfortunate that someone had to die for it to really finally get all the attention like it has nationally, locally. This has been some tough content, some tough shows to do. Didn't want to speak to a stepdad. He's a great guy, Dave. I want to the whole community, I think, really is reaching out and wanting to support the parents, the mom and the stepdad, Dave, and we're sending love to them, and we're standing strong for Lorna and her family and all her friends and family that care about her. And we stand with them and we care about them. So we're going to bring up some guests and we're going to ask them what they think about this because it's really kind of taken over the world for us. It's a story on our podcast where usually we put out an episode in a day or two. You get your peak views, but this episode, it's been 8 days and every day there's more listens than the day before on that episode. It's if it's not yet, it will be probably our most listened to episode ever of this show for 8 years. So that's how much the community is kind of reacting to this story right now. And I can't blame them. I'm obsessed with it too. So we're going to talk about that right from the get-go tonight on the Young Jerks. We have a bunch of guests. Number one, we have all of them returning, all of them great guests. We have Drew here, who is from UFCW. He's a labor organizer over there at UFCW. Going to be very interested to speak to him tonight about this because I think Trulieve, where this happened, is actually in his territory. So we're going to speak to him tonight. I'm going to bring all three of the guests up all at once, and we'll go through the introductions. We also have Devin Alexander here, and we have our friend Zach at New Hampshire Canna Patient. Why don't we go in that order? Drew, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and then maybe tell us what you think about this whole Lorna McMurray thing and whether any union organizing or you're speaking to any employees over there at Trulieve about this in Holyoke. What are you hearing? Please give us that introduction, Drew.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. I think like a lot of people, I think it's awful what happened. And that I think you summed it up nicely when you said it sucks that something like this has to happen before, it becomes a big story and someone has to do anything about it. But from my end of things, I would say if anybody is interested in, reaching out and doing something about it, you can go to UFCW1459.com and you can find all my contact information there.
And have you heard from any Trulieve employees about this at all? Is this something that's come up recently?
So yeah, full disclosure, we don't represent the workers over at Trulieve in Holyoke. And I think I first heard about this through your program, but no workers have reached out yet.
And so when you say you don't represent them, it's basically because no workers have reached out. There's not another union in there like officially representing them, right? As far as you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's not. They're what we call an unorganized shop.
And so that means that they could definitely contact you if they're interested in pursuing that.
Yeah, I would encourage people to.
Can you say your email and contact again?
Yeah, so the website is ufcw1459.com, and my email is dweisse@ufcw1459.com.
Awesome. And I'm also going to put up a couple things. People can call in tonight too. And maybe you're an employee at any dispensary. You don't have to use your real name. You can always, disguise it if you want to. Come up with a fake name, be Bruce Banner. I don't know, maybe Clark Kent. Who is Wonder Woman? Maybe just be Wonder Woman. I don't know. Whoever you want to be, you can be that person. We're taking phone calls tonight, 978-560-3155. Also, we're taking tips too. We got that up there, but we're going to have to add that. Actually, here it is. Cannabis dispensary workers. If you want to send tips to us too, if you also want to reach out to Drew, you can reach out to me if you're not, and I can get you in touch with Drew too. But any tips that you have about your dispensary, if you're seeing similar situations, we want to hear from you. Can be on or off the record. We don't need to use your name. We're not looking for anyone to get fired. MJC Boston, #1 @yahoo.com. You can definitely send in. Again, tonight we have Drew from UFCW 1459. We have at New Hampshire Cannapatient on Twitter, good friend of the show, Zach. And we also have Devin Alexander with Rolling Relief. So let's go to New Hampshire Cannapatient.
Hey, how's it going, Mike?
Zach?
Thanks for having me tonight. Doing well. How are you?
Good. So tell us who you are and tell us what you think about this whole Lorna McMurray situation too.
Yeah, I'm Zach. I'm a patient advocate up in New Hampshire. I run a Discord. We're nearly 300 members strong. We're a good community. We're there to uplift each other and help encourage each other to make the best decisions out in the market, as well as educating consumers to make better decisions. So we're a great community over there. We're building every day. So that's what I'm doing in the day-to-day, and just do my best to keep people informed. And, as soon as we heard about this story, everybody in the community was, heartbroken that this occurred. When I approach what I do in New Hampshire, this is what I hear. It's these corporations that are supposed to be the white label dispensary. They're supposed to be the people that, cannabis legislators look up to. These are the dispensaries that are open and operating, and they're the SOPs that go around to other states. So, for New Hampshire, a state that's looking to legalize and maybe bring in shops, this is what people are talking about. These are the shops that they want to bring into the state. Shops that, can't really treat their workers fairly, can't provide for their workers. In New Hampshire, the medical program, our prices are outrageous, and we just hear about it's just the overhead it takes to grow it, and it takes to go into the operation. If we're paying for it, why isn't that equipment being passed down to the workers, and why are the workers dying? From a consumer perspective, it's really scary, and it's really, really traumatizing. So the consumers are here for the family, and we're feeling for you all. Sorry this has happened.
Thank you, Zach. And Devin Alexander with Rolling Relief, you're an applicant. You're trying to get into this industry in Massachusetts. You've done a lot of great work to help other applicants. You've changed regulations. I mean, you've probably got a lot to say about where you're at right now. So tell us about who you are, where you're at, and what do you think about the situation that we're highlighting tonight too?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Mike, for having me on. Devin Alexander, lifelong resident of Massachusetts, grew up in Quincy, Massachusetts. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rolling Relief. We were the first Black-owned, provisionally licensed marijuana delivery operator in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're based in Newton. That's where I'm currently at right now. We just wrapped up our facility build out. We're hopeful to get on the November agenda for a final license. But yeah, I really had no idea this even occurred until, you and brought attention to it, really. It occurred all the way back in beginning of the year, January, February, and here we are. It's the last week of September, October. It's crazy too because I'm 29 years of age. I'm pretty sure the girl Lorna was about 27, 28. So it's really close in age to myself. And when I was starting out, I was worked at a vertically integrated medical marijuana dispensary in my hometown of Quincy. So I was doing bud tending and I was doing production as well. So when we were in the back doing that, we had masks on, we had hair nets, beard nets, and we had all these other PPE equipment. When we were a small mom and pop shop, to see something like one of the largest MSOs such as Trulieve, not even provide their employees with personal protective equipment after they've asked them for so much is truly troubling. So their Holyoke facility is massive. I'm pretty sure it's like a tier 10, tier 11 cultivation facility that goes along into that. And it's just so wild because it really makes you think if this is happening here in Massachusetts, a limited license state that it has caps. Trulieve has, Florida in the palm of his hand. What's going down in Florida? This is happening up here in Massachusetts. So just like everyone else, I'm really just shocked and saddened to hear because, most likely than not, that was that most likely Lorna's dream job, just to be in industry, just to be working with weed. And it's just so unfortunate that also caused her demise.
It's horrible. It's just, it's like you said, it's a dream job. These folks think they're helping others, which they are. And then they die on their job. And there's so many questions about why it happened. I want to go back to Drew on this because you're the labor guy. And I feel like you've seen a lot. Like I don't think the average consumer or even newspaper journalist that is covering this right now, and maybe the Boston media market that, isn't like totally into cannabis like some of us are. I don't think they quite get it. I don't think the politicians get it, but I think a lot of them, their eyes have been opened this week. A lot of them are getting back to us. A lot of them are hitting us up. This is risky. Like there's a lot of health and safety. Like forming a union isn't just about benefits and dollars. A lot of times it's about having a say at the workplace. And the big say is work and safety, worker safety. It's like the number one issue that I hear from all of these cannabis dispensary workers at the big shops. I'm not talking about micro grows. Those guys seem really happy. I'm talking about the big cannabis firms like Trulieve. Drew, is this something that is like at the top of the list for the union workers that you talk to in all of the different cultivation sites across the state?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I'm of the opinion that if you have a job and you can organize, you probably should do it. But just speaking to cannabis generally, and just so I'm clear, you want me to talk about kind of like the reality of working as a cultivator in one of these bigger facilities? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I think Devin gave a really good lead in already, but I guess I would just say, yeah, you have to be fully suited, and that includes covering your hair and your shoes, and this is all just to prevent contamination. I think most people would probably know that, yeah, you're working around plants all the time, but it's quite hot in there, and that happens whether it's cold or not outside, and it can probably, well, I've had people tell me that it can get to you after a while, particularly if you haven't had a chance to take a break or something like that. Otherwise, it's like most of the people, at least that I've talked to, who work in cultivation operations, they're younger workers under the age of 40. I'm just speaking for Massachusetts at least. And maybe another underappreciated part of all that is, there's a lot of regulations around cannabis, and I think that that alone is not necessarily a bad thing. But part of that for the workers' reality is the sort of the nature of it is round the clock surveillance, more or less, and they have to keep an eye on the product, and I think that's it makes sense in a lot of ways, as from a business perspective. But for the workers, that means they're on camera from the moment they clock in until the moment they leave for the day. And I guess I could talk about more, but that's just that for me, that would be the general reality I hear about.
Now, there's been a lot of thought maybe she would have been saved if people had known CPR at the workplace, as well as her stepdad brought up the masking issue where she was borrowing masks from him for her work because apparently they must not have been providing them to her. Do you feel like CPR is something that should be more mandated at some of these places, or is that something that already happens? Like, what's the deal with that, Drew?
Well, I guess perhaps I suppose the question I would go to is if it's a little bit, I guess if there are dangers that are inherent in the operation, be it the farming or the factory aspect of it, then I guess it's my question would be, what are companies doing to mitigate the risk for their workers to any of those hazards, those work hazards?
I think that makes sense. What are they doing? I mean, that should be like you talk about the security of the plants. It should be security of the humans, making sure the humans get home. We had a couple comments. We're gonna actually move on to some other topics tonight too, but it's definitely, I want to read some of the comments coming in. Facebook user wrote, "It's crazy. I've seen workers complain and be told if you can't do it, the cannabis industry isn't for you. Then no idiots, protect your workers. All about the money. It's sad." I mean, we hear this a lot too. And unfortunately, we actually predicted that this might happen, that someone, I said that. What's it going to take? Is it going to take someone to die? I wish I never said those words, honestly. It's this is the Young Jerks. We got some great guests. We're going to talk about some other subjects too tonight, hopefully. Let's talk about, actually, what do you guys, let's ask you guys, we got three awesome guys here. You guys must want to talk about different things, I imagine. Let's go, since Drew's been talking a lot, let's go to Zach right now. Zach, is there something that you want to just talk about tonight? Cannabis policy, or bring attention to, or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of what I'm trying to rally for in New Hampshire right now on the medical side as a medical patient is just our basic right to home grow, to grow our own cannabis at home. Thinking about the medical program, the way it is now, the way it's designed, it's very much geographical based. Where you are in New Hampshire, you have Sanctuary way up north, you have Temescal spread out, and you have Prime ATC. They're all very widespread across New Hampshire. And access and affordability is a big issue in the state. So home grow, I think, is a very easy stepping stone for the program to take to ensure patients feel valued in the program and understand that they have a path to affordable medicine through appropriate channels. I think that's a big part of what I'm fighting for up in New Hampshire. So that's really my focus right now, is just getting us that basic right to grow our own medicine.
Is there a bill up there right now?
Not that I'm aware of. I need to do some deep dive. We're getting through the elections up here, so
Yep.
I'm going to see what's coming up in the coming months. And we got a good group of people now in New Hampshire. What our biggest issue was before was just getting organized, getting all the patients together, and understanding, where the downfalls of the program is and where we can improve, and then, taking action there. So we're building a good group of patients. We're educating them on how the program is operating now and where it can go. And we're hoping that with this effort, we can kind of come together and rally for progress in the program as, New Hampshire also approaches legalization. With Vermont sales going into effect this past weekend, New Hampshire is the only state in New England now that doesn't have legalized cannabis. So that's going to be a very hot topic coming down the line here, as it always is in the state. So my aspect is, how can the state approach legalization if they can't even have a viable medical program for the patients? That's really all it is. We have the program growing every year. When I first joined, there was under 10,000. I think we're approaching over 13,000 now, according to the latest data report, and that's growing every day. Every day, patients are joining the program. So yeah, it's really just fine-tuning the program, getting it patient-focused, and really identifying what New Hampshire's goals are as we approach legalization. Yeah, that's really all I'm focused on right now in New Hampshire.
And you're sick tonight too, aren't you? I can tell.
Yeah, I have a cold.
You told me that earlier. It didn't sound it. Now I notice it. I feel bad. I think that's last time you were on, you weren't feeling that great either. You're a trooper.
Hey, I just like to spread the good things that New Hampshire's doing out there. I think we don't get a lot of credit out there and what's going on in cannabis. So I just wanted to come on, talk about the horrible, tragic news at Trulieve with everybody, and just talk about cannabis overall. It's always a fun time joining the show, so I appreciate the invite every time I get it. So
Thank you,
Mike.
Zach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also have I want to go to Devin now, because I know you must have a number of things. I'm not sure what you can talk about too, because you're an applicant. You're probably like, I know you got to walk that line, but we're going to bring up some things that I think need to be changed as well. But I'm just wondering if you have anything that you want to bring right to the top, Devin Alexander.
Certainly. So my biggest fight right now is the requirement for cannabis delivery companies having 2 drivers in Massachusetts. So Massachusetts companies have to have 2 drivers in the vehicle, 1 driver while there's product in the vehicle at all times. You can only have up to $10,000 worth of product. On top of that, the drivers have to wear body cameras. There has to be 2 additional cameras on the vehicle, and 2 safes, 1 for cash and 1 for product. And
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? 2. I didn't know that. So wait, I thought it was just 2 body cameras, which seems excessive, but you're talking 2 body cameras plus 2 people. That's what I thought. 2 people, 2 body cameras. And then you're talking 2 additional cameras in the car
Yeah,
and 2 safes.
yeah. The way it's constructed, you would think we're delivering plutonium. The way the
That's
regulations.
insane. How, like, they're basically giving you a business that you can't serve people. I mean, that's just out of control.
Exactly. And this is a license type that has been set aside exclusively for social equity applicants and economic empower applicants. And so we have a 3-year exclusive window to run adult use cannabis delivery. And that window began on April 1st of this year when Budsy in East Hampton commenced operations. So the clock is ticking. There's only 4 marijuana delivery operators that have commenced operations throughout the state. Kind Run, Rebel, Budsy, and Doobie out of Wareham. And so, the cannabis control commissioners, they can extend that exclusivity period if they deem necessary, which is going to have to be, extended.
They're going to have to, and they have to fix that. I know that Chris Fevry and I can't remember her name, but the Kind Run folks. What's her name? What's her name?
Julia Germain.
Yes, Julia. They were on the Codcast, which is like Commonwealth Magazine, one of the big Boston media publications that we got a story in this today, that we're just talking about Lorna McMurray. They were also on the Codcast talking about this. It's their podcast, and they're not happy. They've like done the most deliveries. Like they've done tens of thousands of deliveries, and they're like, this doesn't work. We can't do this. We're done. Like we can't do this. So do you think, and they've collected a lot of signatures to try to get this changed. Do you think this is going to get changed, and when could it happen?
Well, I think it all is going to coincide with them opening up the regulations. So back on August 1st, Massachusetts passed a huge cannabis reform bill that did a multitude of things, that greenlighted social consumption, that created a social equity trust fund, and created host community agreement reform. So the Cannabis Control Commission is going to have to open up the regulations regardless to implement those new changes. So we see this as, the perfect time to also do other changes. But unfortunately for some companies, I don't think they can wait that long until the Massachusetts
They're going to go out of business
review process, because they have to, form working groups, receive public comment, and then, do all these other things, and then have the Secretary of the Commonwealth promulgate the regulations. That takes time, as we've seen before. And this is not a new issue. We've been harping on this since 2020.
Right. Since it happened, basically.
Exactly. And
you were like, thank you for this, but no thanks on. Yeah, I remember. It was just like, man, they always do this. It's like they give you something and then they take it back. It's really disgusting. This Cannabis Control Commission has to change that regulation, because you guys are trying to get into business into something that doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Definitely want to see that changed. Kim Napoli was talking about that on the last show as well. I know that there's a lot of people working on that. So, I would encourage everyone, contact the Cannabis Control Commission, especially when they start doing these public meetings. You got to speak up on this stuff. You got to take time and do it and write them and email them and all that stuff. Drew, what's your focus? What do you want people to know or help on or talk about?
I guess I would just say, it might seem like it is exciting and it's fun to go work with cannabis. And I have people telling me that all the time, but we've talked a lot already about sort of what people face in that situation. And I guess my focus is whether or not you're currently going through similar hazards, or you're not really. That maybe if you wanted a seat at the table, then I would say probably trying to organize your workplace is the way to do that. And I would always say that, but I think just like with the story breaking now about this this awful tragedy that's happened, I would say it didn't need to happen in the first place. Just like nobody needs to wait for their working conditions to be worse before they can have a say in their working conditions.
It's so true. Especially when you're in certain industries. Like, I don't think the guys that are engineers at Apple need a union. But when you're at a risky workplace, an industrial workplace, it makes a lot of difference. I've worked in those situations, and let me tell you, when it was the one time it was unionized, we didn't have ambulances coming every week. We weren't taking bets. It was like, I worked there for like 6-7 years. I might have seen one ambulance one time, and it wasn't even anything serious. Like, health and safety was number one. If there was an issue with your boss, the shop steward would come in, and that's it. Your health and safety is first. Like, makes a difference. It really does. You have a say in the workplace. So I think people need to start organizing. And you got to think of not just yourself. You got to think about this industry. You got to think about the other workers. Sometimes you got to sacrifice for the greater good to bring change, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I could even step outside of doing working directly with your body, even if you're just if most of your job involves thinking, I would say you'd be hard pressed to find a job that doesn't involve selling your body in some way.
So many jobs, so many of them. We're the Young Jerks. We're also taking your phone calls tonight. Got a number of topics we want to talk about with our round table. Telephone number 978-560-3155. If you want to call in, you got a question, you can also, leave it in the comments. We post comments too. I'm going to post this one without even reading it. Sometimes that's risky, but let's just do it. It looked good. I saw Union Shop and I was like, let's go with it. Lex Liz writes, as a Union Shop steward, in a MSO store, I completely agree with you guys more. Thank God we unionized before the MSO, which is MSO is multi-state operator. That's what we talk about in the cannabis industry. They're generally the largest operators, the ones with the most money, the most debt, the most likely to treat their employees like crap and put them in dangerous situations for the money, because they have so much debt on the books and they have so many licenses that they don't really care except about the bottom dollar. And those are also the ones that one of our guests mentioned as the legislators look at them as the white label firms, like they're the best of the best. When in reality, it's just the opposite. It really is. The larger that you are in the cannabis industry, unfortunately, usually the more suspect you are, is my opinion. And I'm not saying that in every case, because I think some MSOs actually do care about their workers and are trying to help their workers, and they actually put an emphasis on that stuff. And you can tell there are some, but most of them and a lot of them are not. So the great comment from Lex Liz. Do you want to have any comment on that, Drew? She's basically agreeing with you. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Shop stewards are the most important people in the whole labor movement.
Absolutely. 100%. We have some great guests tonight. We got Drew from UFCW 1459. If you're a worker and you want to get organized, you want some help, you just want to talk to someone, contact Drew. Look him up, UFCW 1459. We also have at New Hampshire Cannapatient. If you want to get involved in the New Hampshire cannabis medical cannabis movement, contact him on Twitter. And we also have Devin Alexander. He can help you in a lot of ways in the Massachusetts cannabis industry. He helps a lot of folks. I've seen him do it. Maybe you want to help him get rid of this ridiculous body cam thing where it's 2 body cams, 2 safes, 2 extra cameras on top of that. Too much regulation for a small operator. Need to change those regulations. Some other things we want to talk about is the taxation. Massachusetts taxation is higher than what we actually voted for as law. The governor and the Speaker of the House decided they wanted more taxation on cannabis. And then they just recently set the gambling sports wagering gambling at 15%, which is what we actually voted for cannabis before they raised it. So my question is, shouldn't they reduce the taxation on cannabis down to 15% for adult use? Because that's what we actually voted for. That's what they're doing for sports gambling, and sports gambling is far more harmful than cannabis. I don't think cannabis is harmful at all, honestly, except for a very small number of people that have some kind of issue, usually allergic issue with it. And for them, they just stay away from it. And sports gambling obviously is a big issue, and they want to have it at 15%, which we want cannabis at. So I'm asking you folks, do you agree with that? And secondly, there's also a proposal that Kim Napoli is behind that would allow adult use discounts for the first time. Adult use cannabis cannot discount. There was a memo I found out that went out, or a regulator or one of these inspection people told some of the dispensaries that they could actually do adult use discounts, and some of them are doing discounts now. And then I hear that the CCC found out that their own people were giving out bad information, and they're yelling at the dispensaries about it instead of yelling at their own people who made a mistake. But this discount issue, adult use aren't supposed to do discounts, even though you'll see some of them actually doing discounts by regulation. And she's talking about actually allowing discounts, and specifically for folks that have medical cards. So that I have a medical card right now, I'm being excluded from a lot of the adult use shops that are opening. Majority of shops are now adult use. If I go in there, I'm going to pay a tax. Whereas if I go to a medical dispensary only, I don't pay the tax. So she's proposing to give us the discount to allow us to get our tax money back from the dispensary, and also to offer discounts to veterans and other folks who have been harmed. For example, people who have arrest records for cannabis. Would you guys support those types of, number one, discounting or tax relief for consumers or even industry businesses? What do you think? Let's go to New Hampshire Canna patient Zach first. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm all about reducing the cost of cannabis. So if we're thinking about like reducing the taxes, absolutely. When I talk to my buddies in Massachusetts, on the adult use side, they're like, oh yeah, well, before tax, it's a $35 eighth, which is very true, but out the door price is very different from the price on the menu. So, I couldn't agree more with reducing the tax rate on cannabis down to what was originally agreed on at 15%. And, absolutely with the adult use discounts, I think that's a no-brainer. Anything to reduce the cost of cannabis to the consumer, I'm all about that. So absolutely. I think the cannabis in Massachusetts is outrageously priced with the taxes in mind. When we look at the cost before taxes, it's okay. But, I think it could be reduced to help ease the burden on the consumer.
All right, Drew, what do you think?
Just speaking from experience about the cannabis workers that I've talked to, it's actually a fairly consistent ask from a lot of people is, they want to be able to, if you're a cultivator, right, you want to be able to try the product that you've made. In a lot of cases, that would come down to, can you afford to buy it at the dispensary of the same company or any other company? And, if the program is going to make it easier for the people who actually grow it and want to enjoy it to partake in that, then yeah, I would support that.
Awesome. And Devin, do you see any downside to this? What do you think?
I don't see any downside at all. As I alluded to earlier in the podcast, I started off as a medical bud tender, and we had loyalty programs. I think that's ways for brands to build customer loyalty is offering discounts. Massachusetts is one of the only states in the country to not offer discounts. We're setting up stuff with a company called Alpine. I'm like, hey man, there's certain things we can and can't do, and we can sell accessories, in the clothing apparel, we can discount that, but that can only get you so far. So reducing the taxes huge, 100%. New York and New Jersey coming online, and they're under 15%. When it comes to their taxes. So 100% agree that the taxes should be reduced, and along with offering discounts, loosen the advertising restrictions as well.
Yes,
a lot of advertising stuff that we can't do either. So marketing and discounts, I think, should coincide with one another.
Absolutely, 100% agree. We're the Young Jerks. We're doing a cannabis panel right now. We've got someone representing labor unions, Drew. We got an applicant who kind of, representing the smaller scale industry, a hopeful, part of the industry. He's still trying to get licensed. It's been a long fight. He's changed regulations, changed things in the state already before he's even been licensed. So, I mean, what a remarkable story. Devin, one of the most popular podcasts we had actually was when Devin was on the show and told some of his story with Grant Smith, I believe it was. At New Hampshire Canna Patient is also here. He's a medical cannabis supporter, organizer in New Hampshire, trying to get home grow, trying to get some changes in the laws in New Hampshire. Only state without legalization in New England right now. My name is Mike Crawford. We've got a number of other topics. I want to ask another union question. One of my friends in the union, Aiden, he's all about, he talks about this a lot. Actually, I don't even want to say it. I'm almost asking Drew to do it, but I think I know what it is. It's a labor peace agreement. He wants to see labor peace agreements become a big part of the cannabis industry as certain requirements to get licensed. It's basically saying you have a deal with your employees on allowing union representation, I believe. Am I right on, Drew? What is a labor peace agreement?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. So it's basically it's like a requirement to be able to be licensed in the first place is that you have to sign a commitment to treat your workers fairly, more or less. That's what it means, right? So when you go into the labor peace agreement, it certainly makes things less hectic, right? I think you could say if you could solve a problem without a fight, I think people would most likely go for that in the first place. Whereas, as union people, we know sometimes we got to fight, but if it's easier to help more people by, getting a labor peace agreement ahead of time, so the playing field is more level, then I would say that's what a lot of people in labor would probably want to go for.
Excellent. And what do you think? I'll say New Hampshire Canna Patient. Zach, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. I couldn't agree more with what Drew said. I'm sorry, I actually had to blow my nose.
No worries.
I'm a little
So
sick.
you agree with Drew?
Yep.
Why don't we go to Devin? Do you see any issue with it? Labor peace agreements.
I don't see any issue with it unless it's fair for both sides. I think the more MSOs come on in the state, the more you see it. Because back when I was still just an employee, I don't think there was any, unionized cannabis workers at all. Back in 2018, when I was still doing the bartending thing, there was no unionized thing. So to see it progress is really great. Welcome, sorry.
Awesome.
And actually, real quick, I remember,
Yes.
Mike, when I first connected with you a couple of years ago, part of what I did was just looking at the job ads on Indeed. And I remember I showed you the Columbia Care ad. They were actually actively looking for their next employee for the inclusion and diversity role to actively work against union efforts in the dispensary. So yeah, that's not good for the workers at all. So completely with the labor peace agreements, just to give that opportunity to the workers before these corporations get in there and cause harm.
That's unbelievable. That was such a great find. That ad. It was like Columbia Care, who owns Patriot Care. They want to hire someone who is going to be the front person for their social equity and to be basically a union scab a union buster. It was just kind of a disgusting ad. Pretty gross.
Yeah, no, it was horrible.
I consider it like the hello fellow workers approach to union busting.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarro to put that out to the public too. I think you would get away with it.
Pretty incredible.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's pretty incredible they did it.
Yeah, it is. It's just shocking, but it's not. Like if it's funny. We just, us cynical veterans kind of just expect it now, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's why I continue to look at the job ads just to see what else they're throwing out there. And, if they can't even provide safety equipment to their workers, what else are they just freely throwing us to catch and expose? They're not clever. They're not slick. So it's just, we got to be on our toes and help educate everybody, with what they're actually doing and the harm they're causing to the communities.
Absolutely. There's another, Massachusetts cannabis scandal that's been going around right now about the new chairman of the commission. Shannon O'Brien, former treasurer. A treasurer picks a treasurer. A treasurer picked an ex-treasurer to be the Cannabis Control Commission top dog over there. And Shannon O'Brien is the former treasurer that was selected by the treasurer. I just think that's so funny, like the nepotism. It's just like, oh wow, you're just gonna pick another treasurer to run the job. So they pick her, but she's also like, she's part of cannabis businesses that she hasn't like separated from. So she's basically a commissioner regulating herself. I mean, that's what the Boston Herald reported. A bunch of other people reported. Do you guys want to comment on that? What do you think about that story? Anybody want to comment out of the three of you? Nobody seems interested in this one.
Well, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, I'm a consumer. I'm a patient. That's just silly. I'm trying to work with our oversight board and identify the people in there that could be removed that don't have cannabis's best interest in heart. And if you're a business owner and you're on the board now, there's a conflict of interest right there off the bat. So that's just silly to me. I'm all about getting those conflict of interest out of the picture. So that's just completely shocking to me. Like, we've talked about a lot of shocking things tonight. This is just yet again another shocking thing in Massachusetts.
It is shocking, but at the same time, almost expected. Like,
expected.
The old cynical me now, but and cynical me though also is hopeful that if she doesn't lose her commissioner spot, that she might actually be okay for us. I mean, we'll see. I'm hopeful.
Just gotta
Anybody
be
else want to
transparent.
comment on? Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You just got to be transparent with what your intentions are, and come out and say, there's those ties. Do what you got to do to either address them and move on, but just be transparent. That's the biggest thing with, I think, in my opinion, Massachusetts cannabis is a transparency issue, and it's just cannabis wide. I think in New Hampshire we have it, but you just got to be transparent with the consumers and everybody that's involved in cannabis. There's a lot of shady stuff going on, so just got to start with transparency, in my opinion.
Excellent. We're the Young Jerks. You can call in. Someone's asking me from the number right now. It's like, listen and call in. 978-560-3155. That's our number. You can call in. Or you can, if you have my phone number too, you can just use my phone number. That's the backdoor way. I don't want to give everyone my number, but you can use my number as well. And I'm just going to turn on the Bluetooth in case anyone does call, because a couple people did say they wanted to call tonight. But hey, we haven't heard from them. I'm checking some instant feedback too, just looking at a couple different things. Again, my name is Mike Crawford. We're the Young Jerks. It's been a lot of coverage of some of the things that have been going on the last couple of days in relation to the death that we talked about. A lot of stories have been posted, high times. I want to make sure I'm not missing any of the stories that we were supposed to talk about tonight too. New Hampshire Cannapatient. I gave you a list of stories that, topics tonight, I believe.
Oh, yep.
Are there any on the list that I haven't covered right now?
Let me.
I'm a little bit unorganized tonight, I got to admit, because, so much is, not every day you get 10 reporters calling you while you also have 15 dogs to walk. I was just like slammed.
The SHIP Act. Yeah. We were going to talk about growers selling direct to consumers.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That's a big one.
And I'm just going
to. There's a SHIP Act, which is a national proposal. They want to allow all agricultural growers to sell direct to consumers, kind of bypassing a lot of the stores that exist right now, because a lot of times the price is raised because the store has to pay a high rent and cost a lot to just open anyways with all the regulations. So there's proposals even locally now, that would be federal. The SHIP Act would be for federal. If the prohibition of cannabis is ever lifted, that would happen as part of that. But beyond that, we could do that locally. There's growers like our friend River Wren Gardens who are micro cultivation. They can't sell direct to consumer. They only can sell it to the dispensary, and then the dispensary sells it to the customer. A lot of those places would like to sell directly to the customer as an option as well. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a good idea? Any drawbacks? Support it? Why would you be against it? Let's start with Zach, since you asked, you brought up the question. I'm sure you know a lot about this. What do you think?
Yeah, when this was first talked about, with me, we brought it up in the Discord community. I had a little bit of a mixed feelings with it. As a New Hampshire patient, a lot of my medicine comes from Maine. And with Maine, we have the ability to go direct to the grower, direct to the caregiver, and have that experience. So for them, I feel it's definitely a good way to make sure that they survive when federal legalization comes into effect. But on the other side, I also see a bunch of loopholes that need to be fixed. I feel like it's a very first draft version of it. If they can fine tune, some of the things in there to further define what craft cannabis is and who actually can take advantage of this, I think that would go a long way. But again, on the other side, I listen to what Massachusetts delivery businesses have to do just to deliver cannabis to consumers. And I have a hard time seeing a way that the consumer will get this delivered just, like a regular package. We have Massachusetts companies having to have 2 cameras in the car, 2 body cameras, 2 safes. Is it just going to be as easy as just saying, okay, here, USPS, go deliver this package to my porch, like everybody wants to think? I mean, we have local regulations like in Mass, like we've talked about, that I have a hard time seeing this, go into effect as easily as everybody celebrating it. But I definitely do see it as a benefit to, small growers in the long run once legalization goes into effect. But there's definitely work to be done on the way it's written now, in my opinion.
Let's go to Devin. Alexander, what do you think about this proposal to allow all the growers, the licensed people who grow cannabis legally, to be able to directly sell it to the customer?
And there's no like cap on how big that grower has to be. They can be as big as they want. And so
Well, there is a limit on the SHIP Act. I'm not sure how it would work in the state of Massachusetts, but I have a feeling they probably would have a limit on it. But again, I don't know if even those limits would hold up. You know what I mean? You never know. So that's a good question. That would sway where you stand on it, you think?
Definitely, yeah, because obviously, the bigger growers, obviously care more about quantity over quality. Everybody knows that. And I think that's why so many people were attracted to the micro business license in Massachusetts in the first place. The only license that has a residency requirement, you have to be a Massachusetts resident for a full year before you can obtain a micro business. It's an umbrella term. So when it comes to cultivation, we have tier 1 through tier 11. So micro business is tier 1 up to 5,000 square feet of canopy, and the ability to also do product manufacturing. But they cap you on the amount of pounds you could wholesale per year. If you're a micro business doing product manufacturing, you can only wholesale 2,500 pounds a year. But then if you're a social equity certified micro business, like Freshly Baked down in Taunton, for instance, they can apply for what's called a delivery endorsement, which would allow them to
do that.
deliver their own products. Freshly Baked was actually the first person in Massachusetts to be able to deliver at all before the courier.
Right, they're doing deliveries now.
But they stopped delivery because
would you think like the micro grower, like River Run Gardens, would you be okay with allowing them to do direct to consumer, the smaller guys?
Oh, 100%. I have a lot of love for Ed D'Souza, Big Ed, Will over there. They're great people, and they have amazing products. I've been up to their facility in Newburyport, got a tour of it, got to see what they got going on, and I would 100% be on board with them being able to do that. And once that exclusivity window for delivery ends, whenever that ends, I'm pretty sure they will be able to apply for delivery endorsement. Most micro businesses in Massachusetts either do one or the other. They either do cultivation or product manufacturing. I think Gibby's Gardens in Uxbridge is the only full micro business that does both product manufacturing and cultivation. And it would be great, just to see them, the full force of the micro business license, cultivation, product manufacturing, and delivery. I think that's,
would be awesome.
That would be exactly.
That's what people would love to see. I mean, we want to see that. The craft stuff delivered right to your house. So Drew, what do you think about these proposals? Do you have any thoughts on it? Or maybe it's not even in your, in your area of expertise or something that you even care about at this point?
It's a little bit outside of what I usually work with in cannabis, but I think Maine is a good example of how it can be done in both sides. You can still have your retail cannabis while you have your direct to consumer. So there's no reason it shouldn't work. We got an example already. It's so far as I can see anyway. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but can't you already get CBD in the mail and like hemp plants?
Pretty much, it seems like that. I mean, I don't know if it's totally. I don't know what the legality it is, but
Well, again, this is
practicality. It is.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I don't see
why not.
I don't see why not. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have had a good conversation. Zach, is there anything else on that list that I left out, you think?
On the message you sent me, it was just that, and then you had a very busy week walking dogs.
I did. Oh my God, you don't even know. Yeah, I got a dog sitting over here, really good, who's not my own dog. Amazing dog. He's just sitting watching us. I'm always that's what I do. If I'm not doing this show or doing some reporting on cannabis, I'm walking a dog. That's always. We're the Young Jerks, Mike Crawford. Hey, it's my full-time gig. That's how we pay the bills over here. I want to thank you all for coming on. Drew, say your last name again for me.
Weisse.
Drew Weisse from UFCW 1459. I want to thank Zach at New Hampshire Cannabis Patient. And I want to thank Devin Alexander from Rolling Relief. And I want to wish him the best of luck. And again, changing regulations and making history and opening and killing it. I hope you kill it. I hope you survive, because otherwise it's just not fair. You did all this work to help everyone else. We got to help you make sure that you can open and have a profitable business here. I want to give you each an opportunity at the end here to, give us any final thoughts, promote yourself, promote anything that you want to promote, whether it's just, look me up on Twitter. Here's my Twitter. Your final thoughts, your final goodbye tonight. Who wants to go first?
I'll just get it over with.
Yeah, there you go, Devin. Devin's going first.
So as we talked about, current Massachusetts delivery regulations are a perfect example of over-regulation at its finest, and people who really just, their concerns haven't been met. There hasn't been any robberies of delivery vehicles. Adult use cannabis delivery has been going on for over a full calendar year now, and we have the data to back it up now. Amazon drivers drive around with one driver, no body cameras, and more than $10,000 worth of product without incident. I even worked for Amazon for a little bit last year just to learn delivery a little bit better. And, I was by myself, riding around, no problem, delivering all sorts of type of stuff. The regulatory revision is coming. Keep your eyes out for that. And Rolling Relief will be launching Q1 2023.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. Hopefully you could deliver to me.
Oh, yes.
We'll see. I hope are you going to be like all over the state, you're hoping, or are you starting a certain
Greater Boston area? So we're located in Newton. So we're going to have a 20-mile radius around Newton. So we really have to be strategic in where you place your warehouse, because we can't deliver to municipalities that have cannabis bans and moratoriums in place as well. So that's something else that we're hopeful to change down the line. But, our number one priority is getting that second driver requirement amended.
We got to lift more of those moratoriums too. I heard there's a big fight in Stoneham right now as well. So definitely big up on that. Thank you so much, Devin Alexander, Rolling Relief. Wishing you the best with your business. Let's go to Zach right now. What do you got for us, Zach? Final thoughts.
Yeah, just find me on Instagram and Twitter at NHCannapatient. And, businesses in and out of cannabis, treat your workers right. Give them what they deserve in the workplace. Don't cut corners. Don't cheap out. Give them what they need. And patients and consumers continue to uplift and educate each other, and just encourage each other to make the best decisions when it comes to purchasing your cannabis, because these are the big corporations and this is what happens to their workers. And yeah, just stay positive. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at NHCannapatient. Thanks again for having me, Mike.
Thank you, Zach. And Drew, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate and say, you don't have to wait for your workplace to get dangerous before you take some action and do something about it. If anybody's interested in organizing their workplace, they can reach out to me at ufcw1459.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the same @
UFC 1459. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
We're the Young Jerks. I'm going to give some final thoughts tonight as well. I just want to really wish the family of Lorna McMurray our love, this community, because a lot of people are caring about this, and we've been hearing from them. We know that people are interested in this story, and we're going to continue on it. If you're a new subscriber, new follower, follow us everywhere. If you're on Twitter and you've discovered us today, a lot of people did discover us today on Twitter. Follow us on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook. Check out, we're everywhere at the Young Jerks. And I want to also say that we're starting to advertise on a lot of different podcast apps. We're starting to take the money that people have contributed to us, a small amount, and we're starting to put it to good use. So if you want to contribute to us, we really appreciate that as well. That helps us with the equipment. We just upgraded. We bought a lot of new equipment. So if you want to support us, anchor.fm/the Young Jerks, you can support us for like $1 or $5 a month, $10. Also, midnightmass.substack.com. Both of those have ways you can subscribe on a monthly basis for a very small amount. Those small subscribers, people paying us $4, $5, $1 a month, have helped us survive and kept us going. There is a monthly cost for this show. We're over $50 a month for StreamYard. There's also an insurance cost now. We're paying a liability insurance for some of the things we write. Not sure if we actually even need it. We may even consider getting rid of that, but it's always better to be safe than sorry in case someone sues you. And some other costs, equipment costs. And now we're advertising. We want to expand our reach. If you're just listening to us for the first time, maybe on iTunes or Podcast Junkie or Castro or Overcast, please subscribe, share, review. We really appreciate the reviews and the shares and all the love, and especially the subscriptions on iTunes, Overcast, Castro. We love you. If you're listening to us for the first time and you like what you heard tonight, please consider subscribing and consider upgrading. And anchor.fm/the Young Jerks if you want to go all in on your support of our show. We love you. We thank you. Again, our love goes out to the family and the friends of Lorna McMurray. We're going to stay on this. We want to make sure that people know all the details that are coming out. One of the things we learned tonight or today was that the Holyoke mayor, the mayor of Holyoke, had no idea that the situation happened at Trulieve. So here you have Trulieve Holyoke really informing the public officials about what's going on in their location. The mayor had no idea that someone had died after a shift at the Trulieve Holyoke cultivation site. We found out that today. Some great reporting was done. I want to thank all the reporters, Shara for writing a story. There were some other great ones. I'm just looking at some of them right now. The one that Shara wrote for Commonwealth Magazine was awesome. I also want to thank, here it is. This is the one I want to thank. This was a great one by Dusty Christensen. He wrote a story for shoestring.org or shoestring.org, I guess is the easier way to say it. Good story there as well about Lorna. Definitely check out some of those stories, share them around to your friends. And most importantly, make sure that you're supporting cannabis workers. And that doesn't just mean, shopping at their stores. Tell them you support them. Tell them you care about them when you go into their shops. Maybe even consider tipping them. I've started tipping some of my workers. I know what they're going through. Tell them you support them, especially if they're union organizing. They want that kind of support. I would just, and your friends and family that work at these places, let them know that you are thinking about them. And also let them know about the risks too, so that they protect themselves, that they have proper masks, that the people at these locations are CPR trained, that they're looking out for each other. We need a lot more of that. My name is Mike Crawford. Again, if you have any tips and you work at a dispensary and you want to, share some light on what's going on at your location, mjcboston1@yahoo.com. We thank you so much. We're the Young Jerks. We will see you later. Mike Crawford checking out. Thank you, folks.